Hey, it's Zero to Pass coming at you with a Nubatama Premium deck. Probably the last deck for Premium that I'm going to post, the last build, before the producer's announcements. So, yeah. Really just want to wait and see what the restrictions are going to be, how the environment's going to change, before really putting too much more brain power into this thing. Yeah, so this is going to be a Shiranui Rinne deck profile for you, and I hope you guys like it. And I'd love to hear in the comments what you're all playing. We've got Vieira, because Vieira starters are great. On ride draw, if you went second, get a quick ticket. And yeah, so main deck, we're gonna just start with the grade 3s first. 2 Oboro for stealth. So the reason we have 2 Oboro is if we ride on a stealth, we went first. It's gonna be really awesome to just then be able to go into this. Chances are you may actually go into this too when you go second. You're not gonna stride, but it's gonna help you get your Shiranuis into soul faster. You're gonna get more protect markers. And honestly, if you have a stealth dragon, maybe you get the stealth dragon in your hand, maybe you go search it out with Toitachi. If you can use his ability to make a domination token and take something out of your opponent's graveyard or off their field, which is really useful to them, and then bind it, it's pretty good. And if you have the requirement for 2 Shiranuis in soul, you're actually going to be able to drive check. This is going to get plus 15 as though you just strode, because remember, most strides give you 15s. Actually, they do give you 15. It's ultimate stride that gives you the bigger number. But it would be like, it'd be almost like having strode, but you're actually drive checking one more if your token happens to be a grade 3. So you want to stop and think about that. The reason I'm running 2 is in case I damage check 1 or in case I draw into 1. So yeah. So it's a Shiranui deck, and we're using the VR Shiranui because there are lots of really awesome things that you can do with these cards. Stealth Dragon, as an act, you can pitch a card to go get an Oboro out of your deck, write it. That's awesome. If this is on rear guard, when it attacks, it gets plus 10. It then at the end of battle goes into soul. You get to draw a card, your opponent takes a card from off their field, puts it back to the hand, and then pitches one. So pretty awesome. And not only are you drawing a card, but think of it as a bonus that you're getting more grade 3s into soul. You're soul charging it effectively. He, as I was saying, in counterblast 1, choose a card from your opponent's field or discard, bind it, make a copy of that as a token behind your Vanguard. You can then attack with that dominated token. If you have 2 Shiranuis in soul, the dominated token can drive check, and when this attacks, it gets plus 15k. Pretty good. 15k if you have 2 Shiranuis in soul. The other grade 3 is Mizukaze. Mizukaze, on placement, Soul Blast to grade 3. Your opponent can no longer call cards that they've called already this turn in any way, shape, or form, whether or not it was to the Guardian Circle or to the field. Yes, this is within the FAQ on the Japanese Vanguard website. It's been verified more than once. Emails as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. The deck's going to be based around using this, and so that'll bring us to our next card. Old Furai. Furai is a GB1, Soul Blast 1. Choose a card from your opponent's discard and have them call it. If you don't want them to use a grade 0 PG, call a grade 0. If they're playing Protect, they're still going to be able to pitch Protects, but if they call a Protect, is it a Protect grade, right? So you got to think about things like that. It gets really kind of wonky, but using these 2 cards in tandem is just really hot with Shiranui. This works if you're on a Shiranui. It's a Shiranui specific card. The other ability here, GB1, whenever a dominated unit attacks, this gets plus 2k until end of turn. So if you attack with, say, Mugen Lord, you attack with like 5 things, it's going to get plus 10. So don't forget the second ability, pretty cool. Next card up, I'm running 3 copies of Ungai. We've talked about Ungai before, GB1. On placement, you can reset 2 of your units to 11k and your opponent's Vanguard to 11k. If you've used some dominate effects, your opponent checks a over trigger. During your main phase, you can then call this and reset that 100 million to 11k. It's pretty good. I did have Bobo in here, but design-wise, it wasn't really functioning much. There wasn't really too much of a need for it, at least not right now. You know what I'm saying. So instead, I'm running Gale. There is a lot of benefit for Gale. Allows me to rush, allows me to dig into cards, and yeah, that's just really good. Grade 1, so we're running Tobitachi. Tobitachi allows us to search for our Shiranuis. We're typically going to want to search for stealth. Soul Blast 1. If you're on the same grade as your opponent, you can Soul Blast for this card. If you're not, you Counterblast. And you look at the top 7 cards, get a Shiranui in hand, you show it to your opponent and put it in your hand. You do not have to pitch for this ability. This gets +5 if you have a token in play, and the token also gets +5 until end of turn, which is really, really cool. So we are playing with Target Suni, the grade 5 searcher. Grade 5 searcher, what am I saying? The grade 3 searcher, look at the top 5. Cards on Vanguard Rearguard, look at the top 5 is what I meant to say. And get a grade 3 in your hand and then pitch a card. So this is going to help us search out Mizukaze. As you see, I'm only running 3 Mizukaze because I am running this card. And I'm still running 4 of the grade 2 Furai, which is in tandem with him because we really don't have a search for this. We either have to draw it, hit Gale to draw into it, or if we need to, Sakura Fubuki on place. If you have 3 units, you have 1 or less face-up cards in your damage zone. This effectively is going to get +3k. You're going to pitch a card, and you're going to countercharge 1 and draw a card. So, yeah. And then I'm running 2 Tempest Sphere. That's what I have in there right now. That's the room I see that I have. Tempest Sphere basically counterblast 1. You flip up a Cyclone from your G zone, putting you at GB1. It allows you to use Rinne as a first stride, getting the +15 in a critical. That's why it's in here. I'd like to run 4 copies of it. I may run 3. I might drop a Katara Kitsune, maybe go down to just 2 on guy, possibly. Those are some options. I've already gone down to 3 Sakura Fubuki. I don't want to go down on any more of this. It's very important to have Soul Chargers in the deck, which brings us to our triggers. I am running 3 of all our old Torasada 5k crit into Soul, countercharge. Effectively Soul Charges and countercharges, which is really good. The deck wants Soul, the deck needs countercharge. We've got 4 heals. We want heals. We've got an over trigger. It's busted. We've got 4 of PG draw. I do like the draw. Draw is going to allow you to get into your pieces. And we've lastly got 4 of the stride critical because we do need to stride in this deck. This is a stride deck. So, king of the show, Rinne. Rinne, counterblast 1 during your main phase, flip up a Rinne. So you want to run 4 copies of them. When we get the reprints, my friends, you do want to make sure to pick up 4 copies of this. Main phase, your opponent chooses 2 cards from their hand, they call them to rearguard circles. Those cards get +10,000 and they each attack in succession. If you happen to be a GB3, they get an extra, or wait a minute, let me see here. They get +5. So those cards get +5. Sorry about that. They get +5, then they attack. However, if you're a GB3, they get an extra +10 and a critical. So what you want to do is you want to be able to get, using Tempest Sphere, you want to be able to flip Cyclone, which we're using to get us to GB3. The way how are you going to get to GB3 is this is a GB1. You ride onto Rinne, you pay the cost for Rinne, you flip a copy of Rinne up, you now have 2 cards face up in your G zone, and you're on your Vanguard. That is a total of 3 GB, because it includes both the G zone and your Vanguard circle. Okay? Only reason he's in there. That's it. There's no other reason for this. 2 Mugen Lord, counterblast 1 during your main phase. Dominate the number of cards equal to the number of face-up cards you have in your G zone. Give each of them +4k. You can dominate your own as well, apparently. And then you attack with them. And so if your opponent again hits an over trigger, you can then use Ungai to reset because it's during your main phase. So Megan Tembu. Megan Tembu is a stride that we liked for a bit because we would use it as our first stride, but now we're trying to really get on Rinne using this trick here. But the way Megan Tembu works is you counterblast one, you persona flip a Megan Tembu, you dominate a card on the table, one of your opponent's rear guards, you give it plus 3k, and then you attack a unit. At the end, it will be retired. You can use this to actually take out 2 of your opponent's rear guards. You dominate one, you attack the other one. Maybe they don't guard, takes that one out, and then the one you dominate is going to go away. Board wipe, GB2. During your main phase, you can Soul Blast 2, discard a card, dominate your opponent's Vanguard, swing into all their rear guards. They cannot guard. You're going to twin drive. Typically, your opponent's going to be on grade 3, and you're basically going to get a +1 in terms of drive checks. Sukumarukan, GB2, counterblast 2. On stride, your opponent chooses 4 cards and binds the rest from their hand. At the end of the turn, those bound cards will go back to their hand. This is a finisher. Drachma, you have to persona toss. So if you're on a Boro, you're going to have the other copy of a Boro and pitch that to ultimate stride. You have to have 3 up in your G zone to do this. You have to have 2 counterblasts to do this, but the way it works is you retire your opponent's board, including their Vanguard. They take 3 cards from hand, they pitch 2 of them, and they ride 1. Pretty devastating. Our G Guardians, we have Dismal, has resist, gives one of your units resist, so you guard with it and just pick something you don't want to go away. Sashikime, GB1, you flip one of your other G Guardians face up, and then this gets plus 20k unless your opponent discards a card. And then we have Gandakurakan. Gandakurakan gets plus 5 if your opponent has 3 or more cards, gets plus another 10 if they have 6 or more in hand. And then Geharakan. Geharakan is our dominate Guardian. You counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's grade 1 rear guards from the back row and move it to your Guardian circle and add the shield of that card to your Guardian shield value. You're going to want to play Protect once, you want a quick ticket, and you want one of your tokens in case you decide to go down that line of thought and play. So that is the deck. I hope you guys like it. Let me know your opinions on what you're doing. And yeah, so again, this is likely to be my last deck that I am going to share in terms of builds before we actually see what the game makers are going to do with regards to a restriction list, with regards to where they envision the game going in the future. Again, we might want to consider taking one out. It'll be 10 grade 2s. 10 grade 2s is perfectly fine. Ungai is kind of a techie card. We do have ways to get it. We have ways of drawing it. So that's one thing that you could think about in terms of options of tweaking that I would consider taking very seriously. There are 3 Mizukaze. You don't need it. I don't think you need 4 Ungai. Sakura Fubuki. We do have Torasada in the deck now, so I would say we probably still only need the 3 Sakura Fubuki. But right here, this is something that we could consider doing. Okay. Now, changes that can be made depending on what the producer's decisions are, how much this deck will change or stay the same. We do have the grade 3 heels coming, so they're already out in Japan. They are coming to English at some time in the future. I don't know exactly when, but that's another option that you can consider with regards to Shiranui Premium. So fairly consistent, there's a consistency engine here, right? You got Tobitachi, you really should be able to hit your Shiranuis pretty well. Katar Getsuni. You should be able to get into Mizukaze, your 2 pieces, Mizukaze working together with Furai. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. And then Tempest Spheres to get our Rinne online, hopefully as first stride. So that's really the hope here. Do you need Sukumaru-Con? Not necessarily. Sukumaru-Con is pretty good if you're running things like Miyabi and Fuki. It gets pretty brutal. This basically Jamio Kongo as a stride, or I should say Jamio Kongo is basically Sukumaru-Con as a grade 3. So that's still in here. That was the old tech we had. We waited forever for Torasada to get more access to more counterblasts, and of course Sakura Fubuki as a retooled in V-Era, very welcomed addition to the deck. So yeah, that's my Shiranui Rinne deck, and I hope you guys like it. I'll see you guys and talk to you guys after the producers. Let us know what the changes are going to be. Until then, stay safe, wear your masks, peace.